I sometimes wonder why we don't see more sloths in video games. Sure, they're slow and not the most agile creatures, but they're also adorable and always look like they're smiling. In an industry that's turned bats, seals, bandicoots, and even hedgehogs into platforming heroes, you would think that the sloth would get at least some love, but apparently nobody cares about sloths, a fact that I find a little depressing. Perhaps that's why I was excited to play Slowdrive, a brand new racing game built around a good-natured sloth that is desperately trying to get home. Here's hoping that this unorthodox driving simulator will remind developers that this animal's pretty damn awesome. So here's a premise I didn't see coming. You play a nameless sloth that falls out of a tree and accidentally gets lost. Thankfully, he has a car and knows how to drive, which sets up a fun little racer where you speed through a series of short tracks in an attempt to get back to the tree. Wait, did I say speed? That's not entirely accurate, because this is probably the slowest driving game I've ever played, which is just one of the delightful things that set Slowdrive apart from the Gran Turismos, Burnouts, and Forzas that are so common in the genre. The goal in each level is to not just drive to the checkered finish line, but figure out the fastest way to get there. In that sense, Slowdrive feels a lot like a puzzle game. The solution is not always as straightforward as you might expect, which means the poor sloth will need to jump over barriers and search for shortcuts that will shave seconds off of the time. Once you've completed the 3 individual tracks, you'll have to slowly speed through a stage that merges them together to create a lengthy course that is both challenging and scenic. For as simple as the concept is, I was excited to see the variety of stages and obstacles. The 60 tracks are spread across 4 different locations, each adding a new layer of difficulty to the drive home. At first, you just have to figure out the fastest route, but it won't take long before you're making epic jumps, navigating loop-de-loos, and even dealing with moving platforms. And don't expect to upgrade your car and suddenly go faster, because what you see is what you get. This is a game about using the slow speed to your advantage and learning the ins and outs of every course. While I'm not looking for upgradable parts or role-playing elements, I do wish there was a little bit more to Slowdrive. Even with the addition of harder obstacles, the game ends up growing repetitive in a hurry. It's the type of game you'll want to pick at little by little and not binge in a single sitting. It would have been nice to see more variety in the modes and levels. You'll definitely run into a lot of repeated ideas, and the patched together courses start to feel like filler after a while. On a similar note, I wish that the sloth had more of a personality. I know this may sound like nitpicking, but I was kinda hoping we might get more than a simple cinema that sets up the drive home. A little personality and a proper name would go a long way to establish the character and turn him into the ultimate video game sloth. I mean, he may still earn that title by default, but I still wish he had a proper name. Nitpicking aside, I do have some issues with the way the game handles with controllers. For one thing, I couldn't get Slowdrive to work with my PlayStation 4 pad. On the other hand, the Xbox One controller works, but it has its own set of problems. It often felt like the car accelerated at almost random speeds, even when the button is pushed all the way down. There are moments when you can't even make the jump because the car starts out too slow, while you'll end up being nearly twice as fast in the very next attempt. I could never figure out where this speed disparity came from, or if it was related to the controller I was using. While it's not as varied as what I would have liked, I guarantee that Slowdrive is the best racing game you'll play this year starring a sloth. The levels are bright and colorful, the courses are deceptively tricky, and the $6 asking price is a steal for the amount of content you get. It may not be fast-paced, and I wish the sloth had more of a personality, but Slowdrive is a winning game that you won't soon forget. Hey, thanks for watching our review. So Slowdrive is pretty slow, but is it the slowest racing game of all time? I have my doubts. So here's the question of the day. What's the slowest racing game you've ever played? It can either be by design or just due to hardware limitations. Let me know in the comments below. In other news, we're almost halfway through the year, so look for a feature that goes over my favorite games of 2017 so far. We're also going to be kicking off Electronic Gaming Monthly's best and worst reviewed games of 1989 in the coming weeks. I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.